Hi there! Thank you so much for joining me today. This video is a 5 looks 1 palette video with the Tartelette in Bloom palette. This is a really beautiful palette. I have talked about it before in my haul video. I've talked about it in Shop My Stash videos. I do really enjoy this palette, and I feel like I really got a ton of use out of it within the past 6 weeks or so that I have been using it. Instead of going through each shade and giving you like an in-depth review of each shade and doing swatches and stuff like that, I thought I would just focus on the 5 looks. That's the kind of feedback that I got from my last 5 looks 1 palette video. Most people wanted me to focus less on the actual shades and more on the looks that I created with them, and they wanted to see me actually doing the looks. For the first look, I only have a little clip of it. I don't have how I actually put it on because I filmed that one right before people started giving me feedback that they wanted to see the actual video. So I really have 4 tutorials, but I have 5 looks that I created. Anyway, to keep it from being too long of a video, I will have all the stuff I have on the rest of my face for each look in the description box, and that way if you are curious what highlighter I'm wearing in one look or something, you can go into the description box and see what I'm wearing. I really liked look number 1. I think it was really simple and a really great way to kind of just like dip my toes into those darker colors. I used the shades Smoke Show and Activist. I used those to kind of deepen up the lash line and kind of create more of like a liner type look, just with shadow. And then I think I kept it pretty simple on the rest of the lid, and then I kind of added a little bit of interest with a glittery, metallic liquid lip, and that's from Raine. It's in the shade Cotton Candy, and I really liked it. It was my first time playing with a metallic liquid lipstick, and I really liked it, and I liked this look. It was very simple and pretty, and I just really enjoyed it, and this is the only one I don't have an actual video on how I got it, but I do for the rest of the 4 looks. So let's move into look number 2. Okay, so I already have my base on for look number 2. Now let's look at what I want to use from the Tarte in Bloom palette. So the first thing I'm going to do is use this Flowerchild shade to kind of add a little bit of a transition in my crease. I don't imagine it's going to do much. It's very similar to my actual skin tone. Actually, yeah, it's like half a shade darker than my actual skin tone, if not the exact same shade. Okay, so that's good to know. I'll do it to the other side just to keep it all consistent, but I guess I know that that would be like a good cream shade to set my eyeshadow primer from now on. It is giving me a decent amount of kick up right here, but I am using a really fluffy crease brush that isn't the softest, so I imagine it's kind of just like really pushing into the product, even though I am trying to be gentle. This is the Morphe M441. It's not the softest crease brush out there, but it is very fluffy and big. I think I'm going to worry about crease shades and transition shades and stuff like that later and just get started on the actual star of the show, and that's Rocker. I'm going to take this flat shader brush from Wet n Wild. I'm going to pick up a generous amount of that product, and I'm going to spray it with the Ofra setting spray and pack that onto my lid. I really like that a lot. It's like not too dark for the daytime. This shade is like right up my alley. This shade reminds me of that one color from the Nude Tude palette from the Balm. It was like a silvery shade. I remember using it a lot like I used this shade. And it kind of reminds me of that one shade from the Wet n Wild trio, the Silent Treatment trio. I think that one might be a little bit more purpley than this one, but they're just reminiscent of each other. I don't know if they're dupes. I don't have either of the other 2 singles in front of me, but I really like that color. It's a little bit deeper in real life, I think. I'm going to use this e.l.f. crease brush next. Instead of being like a super fluffy brush, it's still fluffy, but it's a little bit pinched. And I'm going to use that kind of like sideways, like this, in my crease. I have more deep set eyes, I have smaller eyes, slightly heavier lids. I don't know if I have hooded lids necessarily, but it is very easy for my crease to kind of get lost, and I don't want to run the risk of bringing that color up too high. So I'm going to start with this shade right here, Jetsetter, and I'm going to work that in like the outer half of my lid, not bringing it too far in. Gonna pat it at first, and then blend. I would say even on my fair skin tone, these crease shades aren't super stark. They're just kind of like, which is what I want in a crease shade anyway. I don't want them to be so pigmented that like the second I put them on my lid, it's like full on 100% pigment. I kind of want them to be more blendable, less pigmented kind of shades. I'm going to go in with an IT Cosmetics flat shader brush like this. It's got a little bit of an angle to it. And I'm going to go back in with that shade and put this on the lower lash line. I kind of want to add a tiny bit more drama to it. I'm going to go in with this Rebel shade in the very bottom corner. It's kind of like a darker burgundy, just because I don't want it to turn too cool. Or you know what, maybe I'll go in with Rebel a little bit too. I'm going to mix Rebel and Leader, these bottom two shades here. Mix them up a little bit on that same flat e.l.f. brush and kind of just pat a little bit on the outer corners. Just to deepen it up a tiny bit, if you can see that difference there. Just a teeny bit of depth in that corner. Then I'm going to go back in with that same transition shade fluffy brush and I'm going to blend that out. Now I'm going to take the LA Girl Dark Brown Gel Eyeliner Pencil and I'm going to tightline the outer 2/3 of my inner lash line, making sure not to get it too close to the inner corner. Then I'm going to grab just like an angled brush, kind of grab a little bit from the tip of the pencil and use that to work it into the inner corner, kind of just like pushing it up into the lash line. That makes it a tiny bit less likely to fall onto your lower lash line and like create like really gross collections of product in your inner corner of your eye. So if you can see, that kind of just adds a little bit more definition to my lash line. Then I'm going to take whatever's left on this brush and kind of push it above my lashes and the outer half, just to kind of fill in my lash line on that outer half of my eye a little bit. And I might go back in with more eyeliner. Just gonna grab it with the brush. Then I'm going to take this Dreamer shade here, this cream, and I'm just going to take a little bit on a flat, this is the Morphe M508 brush. I'm going to grab a little bit of that and just kind of put it on the inner corner. And put on some Essence Lash Princess Mascara. And now for lips, I'm going to rub off the lip balm I have on my lips so far, which is the Dr. Bronner's lip balm, by the way. And I'm going to put on my favorite combo, which is the e.l.f. Gotta Glow Lip Tint with the Catrice Volumizing Lip Balm. I put the e.l.f. one on first. It's one of those products that it's a balm, but it turns a little bit more pinky once it's on your lips. It gets really pigmented really fast. I'm gonna kind of rub it in and then take off the rest of it, just so it's got like a little bit more of a tint to it. And then I'm gonna put on the Catrice one on top. This one has a little bit of like a minty feeling. It kind of lightens up that tint underneath. And this is what the final look looks like. I think it's a nice like everyday type of color. I do love that rocker shade. I think it is really nice. And I'm very excited to play with its coppery counterpart, which is Firecracker, right underneath it. I think it's a good look. I like it. I have this really cute like flowery dress on, and so I wanted to kind of do something light and summery and fresh, and I am aware that it looks like I'm sweating, and part of it is because I am sweating. I film in my attic and it's really hot because I have to shut off all the fans to film, but I do have some Flexitarian highlighter on my collarbones and on my shoulders, and I do have Mary Luminizer on my cheeks, so I have a lot of glow happening, but it's also because I'm really warm as well. I absolutely had to get my hair off my neck, so I just threw it in a bun really quick. Now for the actual eyeshadow palette, I'm thinking for today's look, since I went so glowy on my face, I kind of want to go for like an all matte look. So I'll probably start with this shade right here, Sweetheart, which is like a pinky crease shade, and then put Charmer, yes, Charmer, as like the brightening shade, and then I might deepen it up a little bit with Rebel here. I'm not entirely sure. We'll see once we get in there. We'll see what I'm feeling when I get to it. Now I'm going to go in with a softer brush. This is from Colourpop. It's the E2 brush. It's a softer, more fluffy, less dense kind of crease brush. I'm going to go into Charmer, which is that more white cream shade. When I look at Sweetheart in the palette, it looks like it's going to be a little bit more pink, and then once it gets on my face, once it gets on my eyelids, it doesn't look nearly as pink or as like pinky as I would want it to, but that's fine. Now I'm going to take this Real Techniques shading brush. I'm going to go into Rebel. I'm going to put a little bit of that on the lower lash line as well. I said I wanted this to be like a light look, but it's probably not going to be light. I'm going to go in with just a clean, really big fluffy brush. This is the Morphe M441. Before I go in with any more eyeshadow, I'm going to take the LA Girl Dark Brown eyeliner pencil and put that on the inner lash line. I'm not going to put it on like the very inner corner, I'm just going to do it on like the outer 2/3 because this stuff will transfer to your bottom lash line and I don't want it accumulating in the inner corners of my eyes. Now I'm going to take some of that same eyeliner and I'm just going to put it on the back of my hand. It's nice and melty because it's really hot up here. And I'm going to take a Essence liner brush. I'm going to grab a little bit of it and add a little bit more emphasis to my lash line by going underneath and creating like right at the very corner of my eye and just pulling out a little bit just to create like a little something there. Gonna do that on the other side and then connect it on the top. Next, I'm going to go in with this shade here, Leader, at the very bottom. Alright, and lastly, I'm going to spray a small shader brush. So for today's look, I'm going to be doing a smoky eye, which is exciting but also scary because I don't do smoky eyes that often. I'm going to focus on this burgundy shade here, Leader. So I already put on some Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion, and I'm just going to take a big brush. This is from It Cosmetics, and I'm going to take that shade Flowerchild because we figured out in my last look that that is just like the same shade as my skin. So I'm just going to use it to set my eyeshadow primer. Okay, so I realized I wasn't filming. So I'm going to, on the other eye, take that shade Leader, which is in the bottom corner. I'm going to take the Sigma E25 brush. It's technically a blending brush, but it's got a bit of a flat edge, and I find that if you really try it, it can pick up a lot of product. I'm going to pick up a healthy helping of that Leader shade, spray it with a little bit of the Ofra setting spray, and just tap it all over my lid, and then very quickly go in with a dry blending brush. This is the e.l.f. crease brush. Go in with that Leader shade right here and just try to blend into the crease so that it doesn't have any harsh lines. Then I'm going to go in with a dry flat brush. This is the Luminous Concealer brush from It Cosmetics. It's just a really flat brush, and I'm going to go back into that Leader shade and just kind of tap on top of the lid just to add a little bit more pigment to it. And there is a lot of fallout, but it's only because I'm really packing this dark brown shade on my lid, so of course it's going to have a lot of fallout. I'm going to go back in with that original brush that I used, the Stunning eyeshadow brush, to set my eyelid primer, and I'm just going to take that and kind of just start blending around the edges. Next, I'm going to go in with the Supreme Kohl Kajal liner. It's in the shade Blackest Black. I'm going to put that on my inner waterline and on my lower waterline as well. And that just adds like an even smokier element to the look. Now I'm going to go back into that Smarty Pants shade and go in and just blend a little bit more, and then finally back into Rebel again. Next, I'm going to take some micellar water or a makeup wipe or something and kind of just clean up the edges. I'm going to fill my brows in. I'm going to do some of my foundation and face makeup, and then I'm going to come back and we'll do the final touches on the eyes. So let's work on finishing these eyes, shall we? I'm going to go in with a very thin liner brush. This is from It Cosmetics. I'm going to go in with that Rebel shade right here at the bottom, and I'm going to run that along my lower lash line. And I was going to add some of Firecracker, but I think I'm just going to save that for my next look. I kind of like the all matte look thing happening right now. To keep up with the all matte trend, I'm going to go in with that white shade Charmer right here at the top and just put that in my inner corners. And then go in with that cream Flowerchild shade again with the same brush and just run that along underneath my brow bone. I was gonna use the NYX Epic ink liner to kind of do kind of like a baby wing, but I think what I'm gonna do instead is just go back in with that Milani Supreme Kohl Kajal liner and just run that along my top lash line. And if for some reason you do end up getting a tiny bit of fallout while you have your foundation on, just take a brush, a fluffy brush with some white translucent powder on it, and just use that to kind of dust it away. And then I'm going to complete the eye look with just a crap ton of mascara. And I'm going to finish this off with some lipstick. This is the Pillow Talk lipstick from Charlotte Tilbury. And this is a close-up of the look. I kind of like it. I like it. I think for the future, if I were to actually wear this on a night out or something, I'd probably pair it with a lighter lip. I think for my face shape and just how I like my lip makeup to look, I usually like to go with a lighter lip if I'm doing a really heavy eye, and vice versa. So I think Pillow Talk is a beautiful lipstick, but I think I would probably use Bitch Perfect instead, or just like a really lightly tinted balm or something. So for today's fifth and final look, I do really want to play around with this Firecracker shade here. It's a beautiful coppery type of bronzy look. If it were just a regular day-to-day look, I would just put it all over the lid and put something in the crease, and that would be it. Very similar to the look I did with the Rocker shade. I don't want to repeat the same look over just with a different shade, so I do want to try something a little bit different. I thought I would do a halo eye. I don't even know if I have the ideal eye shape for a halo eye, so we're just gonna try it, and if it looks horrible, then it'll be a valuable lesson learned. I do have some powder foundation on my skin, and I do have my eyebrows filled in. I don't have any concealer on or anything else. I thought I would kind of go with what the eye looks like at the end and then do my rest of my makeup accordingly. So I do have some primer on my lids, and I'm just going to go in with that Flowerchild shade, that cream shade. I'm just going to take a fluffy brush and put that all over the lid. Then I think I'm going to take this Rebel shade right here, this burgundy matte shade, and I'm going to put that on the outer and inner corners of my lid. I'm going to use this flat eyeliner brush from e.l.f. It's very, very flat and thin, and I think that'll help me control where the product goes. And then right where my crease starts, I'm going to kind of just color right above that. Now I'm going to go in with a really soft crease brush. This is by Wet n Wild, and I'm going to go in with this pinky shade. I'm going to mix it in with this brown shade above it. So I'm mixing Smarty Pants and Sweetheart. And I'm just kind of going to dust that right along the edge to kind of soften that edge a little bit. I'm just going to go in with a clean brush. Try to further blend that out. This is so much harder than it looks. I'm going to go in with this shading brush from Real Techniques, and I'm going to wet it, and I'm going to go into that Firecracker shade, and I'm going to put it on the center of the lid. And to kind of punch up that contrast a little bit, I'm going to go in a little bit with Funny Girl, which is that really shimmery gold shade. I'm going to go in with that wet brush from Real Techniques again. I'm just going to put that on the very center. Next, I'm going to go in with the LA Girl liner in the shade Dark Brown, and I'm just going to put that on my upper inner lash line. Then I'm just going to take some of the product from the pencil onto that same brush, and I'm going to push it into the top lash line on the outer half, just to thicken that lash line a little bit. Next, I'm going to go clean up the fallout and do the rest of my face and come back with the final look. Okay, so this is the finished look. To finish it off, after I put on mascara, I decided to take that Rebel shade right here and put that on the lower lash line, and then I went in with Funny Girl, and I put that right in the center on the bottom, right underneath the color part of my eyes, just to kind of exaggerate that halo effect. I did go in a little bit with my finger with Funny Girl and kind of just tap it, just to make sure that it really did pop and shine through. And then I decided to pair it with a purple lip, so I'm wearing the Bittersweet Urban Decay lip liner with the Madison liquid lipstick from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I think it turned out really nice. I like it. I have gotten a ton of use out of this palette. I definitely used it a lot more on a regular basis compared to the Colored Raine Queen of Hearts palette. As much as I love that, I don't really consider it to be like an everyday palette for someone like me, just for my personal day-to-day type of choices with what I wear. This is definitely an everyday palette for me. You do have the possibility to kind of make it a little bit more playful. I use this a ton. I used this on all of the people in that wedding I did the makeup for. I used it on the bride, on the bridesmaid, the mother of the bride, the maid of honor. I used it on everybody, including myself, and just as a guest. and I really love it. It's versatile enough that you can kind of create different looks. You can deepen it up and add a little bit more drama to it, or you can just kind of keep it light. Definitely something I can see myself using more in the future. I think it's a good palette, and whenever I first bought it, you could see the word Tarte on every shade. For example, if you can see on these shades, you can see the word Tarte kind of imprinted in there, but if you look at the rest of the palette, I've kind of worn away that Tarte word on most of the shades. Like, that's how much I've used it. And it's not something that goes away after the first use. You have to use it multiple times for that Tarte word to kind of fade away. So that shows how much I've used it, and I've only been actively using it for maybe 6 weeks or so. I think it's beautiful. Let me know if there is something else you'd like me to add to these 5 looks 1 palette videos. I'm still trying to figure out like all the logistics that goes into filming these. Are actually a lot more complicated than I thought they would be. I do enjoy pushing myself out there and kind of trying more tutorial style videos, but of course keep in mind I'm not like a professional. Like, this halo eye is definitely like a poor man's halo eye. It's not fancy. It's not the most high quality halo eye out there, but I think for my first try and for someone who just is a makeup enthusiast and not a makeup professional, I think it looks really nice. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I put a lot of time and effort into it. Let me know which one was your favorite look. I think my favorite look was the smoky eye, look number 4, just because that's like something I don't think I've ever done before, and I really enjoyed it, and it was so scary because I thought it was going to be horrible. For the first 3/4 of the tutorial, I didn't know what I was doing, and it was kind of all over the place, and then it kind of all came together at the end, and I think it looked really cool and definitely very different for someone like me. So I think that was my favorite, but let me know what your favorite was. In the meantime, that's everything I have. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!